Welcome everyone, and thank you for tuning in. This is the account bringing you the latest report for day 333 of the war in Ukraine. Today is a special day, so we will not be starting with the flashpoints along the front as usual, but with a short update on today's holiday. I also have another article I want to highlight. The article takes a look at the daily lives of the military, civilians and government employees in Bakhmut. Additionally, I have some updates on the tanks for Ukraine situation. Else, not much has happened today, so we will go over the usual minor updates grouped into the situation inside Ukraine, which includes updates on the corruption allegations in various ministries, the occupied territories, Russia and Belarus, with some articles on threats made by Russian officials, and the international developments. But first, the holiday updates. Today, Ukraine marks its Unity Day. On January 22, 1919, the Ukrainian People's Republic, UPR, and the West Ukrainian People's Republic, WUPR, signed the Unification Act, officially forming the United Ukrainian State. In his video address on this historic day, President Zelenskyy said, "This historic event has taught generations of Ukrainians two important truths. If we keep fighting, we will eventually be able to restore a united and independent state. If we fail to achieve true unity, independence will be lost. We have always known about the first truth. On February 24th, we proved that we had learned the second one as well. Our Ukraine is united because it is strong. It is strong because it is united. Happy Unity Day, the invincible people of Ukraine." According to the Prime Minister of Lithuania and the President of the European Parliament, Ukraine is as united as ever, and that is why Ukraine needs our support more than ever. And now a look at the flashpoints along the front. Svatove. Ukrainian units managed to push Russian forces back into eastern Kuzymivka. Russia has deployed reinforcements to the region. Kremina. Russia reportedly made small progress around Bilohorivka while Ukraine made advances on Kremina. The overall situation has not really changed. Bakhmut. Russian units continue their attempts to storm Pitorodne. So far, all attempts were repelled. It seems Russia managed to push through the grey zone in northern Opytne. Russian forces are heavily shelling the TO-504 highway going through Ivanivske. The road is a vital supply line for Ukrainian defenders in Bakhmut. The situation in Klishchivka has not changed significantly. Zaporizhzhia. Russian sources claimed Kamyansk was captured, which is highly unlikely as there is no evidence at all. Videos shared on social media show Ukrainian forces destroying the Russian advance in the area. According to Yevhen Yerin, head of the Joint Press Center for Ukraine's defense forces on the Tavria front, Russia does not conduct a large-scale offensive. Russian troops have tried to advance in small groups, but were repelled and forced to retreat. And now for another article by the Ukrainska Pravda I want to share, titled Bakhmut Symphony, January 2023. How the city continues to survive the war. Bakhmut. The city has many names now. The fortress city, hell on earth, Ukraine's Verdun. The soldiers, police, civilians, volunteers, they all make up Bakhmut. The constant sounds of gunfire, cannons and explosions accompanying them along the way. How do they live their daily lives amidst this Bakhmut symphony? Please give the article a read. And to start the news segment, a look at the latest updates regarding tanks for Ukraine. Annalena Baerbock, the German foreign minister, said in an interview that Germany would not stand in the way should Poland decide to send German-made Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Polish prime minister has once again put pressure on Germany, saying Europe will win the war with or without Germany, and should Germany not agree to send Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine, Poland would try to build a smaller coalition of countries willing to provide modern tanks to Ukraine. Poland also intends to start training the Ukrainian military to operate Leopard 2 tanks in the coming days. In summer 2022, Germany compiled a list of Leopard tanks that are in the Bundeswehr in order to determine which of them can be transferred to Ukraine. According to the list, the Bundeswehr could transfer 19 Leopard 2A5 tanks. The chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Michael McCaul, demanded that the US send Abrams tanks to Ukraine to get Germany to do the same. In his opinion, a decision by the US would create a domino effect that will push other European countries to transfer Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine as well. Meanwhile, Morocco has sold an unknown number of T-72B main battle tanks to Ukraine. Around 20 of those tanks were sent to the front line in Ukraine a week ago. The tanks had been upgraded in the Czech Republic. According to the French President Emmanuel Macron, France does not rule out the transfer of its Leclerc tanks to Ukraine, but under certain conditions. As for Leclercs, I asked the Minister of the Armed Forces to work on it. Nothing is excluded, and this is indeed appreciated collectively, declared the French President. And now for the latest news out of Ukraine. The Ministry of Defense said that the information about the purchase of food for the military at inflated prices, which appeared in the news yesterday, contains obvious signs of deliberate manipulation. The ministry also said it is preparing materials for the security service to conduct an investigation. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Infrastructure and Communities Development Vasyl Lozinskiy has been accused by undercover agents of the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine of taking a $400,000 bribe. The deputy minister has been dismissed from his post by the Cabinet of Ministers. President Zelenskyy commented on the dismissal, saying, "I want this to be our signal to everyone whose actions or behavior violate the principle of justice. Of course, now the main focus is on defense, foreign policy and war. But this does not mean that I do not see and hear what is being said in society at different levels, both in the central and in the regional ones. And this week will be a time of appropriate decisions. These decisions have already been prepared. I don't want to announce them now, but it will all be fair. The public will receive full information and the state will take powerful, necessary steps. There will be no return to the way things used to be." The Joint Forces Commander Lieutenant General Serhiy Nayev said that the military is creating new units which will receive training on the new weapon systems being sent to Ukraine. The whole unit should be equipped with the same vehicle, so a whole battalion is equipped with Bradley, if we get it, or with Leopards, Nayev said. On the other hand, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said during a meeting that he asked the military leadership to create additional reserves so that units can be easier rotated and restored after combat action. Boris Johnson, the former UK Prime Minister, has arrived in Ukraine. He visited the settlements of Bucha and Borodyanka, Kyiv Oblast, and met with President Zelenskyy. Moving on to the situation in the occupied territories. Russia, for whatever reason, has shelled the occupied city of Oleshky, damaging a school and residential housing. The city is on the left bank of the Dnipro River in occupied Kherson. And now the latest updates out of Russia and Belarus. Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of the Security Council of Russia, complained in a Telegram post about the results of the Ramstein meeting. According to him, Russia will struggle due to the weapon systems promised to Ukraine. In his rant, he says it will be hard times, but should Russia endure, a new military alliance will form, causing the US to abandon Europe and Ukraine, and the world will return to a balanced state. Meanwhile, Vyacheslav Volodin, head of the Russian State Duma, has threatened NATO countries with nuclear weapons over the Ramstein results. He said, "If Washington and NATO countries supply Ukraine with weapons that it will use to carry out attacks on peaceful cities and attempt to capture our territories, which it threatens, we will retaliate with more powerful weapons." Oleksiy Danilov, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, stated Russian President Vladimir Putin is now hoping for a Ukrainian Stalingrad. The main task is to make a breakthrough in the operational directions and, of course, Kyiv remains the main dream of Putin's fantasies. And to wrap up the news segment, the latest international developments. Italy, in cooperation with France, is finalizing the preparation of a SAMPT anti-aircraft missile complex for Ukraine. The country has already provided Ukraine with 5 packages of military aid worth about €1 billion, and a 6th package, which includes air defense systems, is currently being prepared. RT France, Russia's state-owned broadcaster, announced that it was closing after its assets were frozen due to the latest EU sanctions against Russia. And now for the daily intelligence updates, starting with the UK Ministry of Defense. On January 17, 2023, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu announced plans for major changes to the structure of the armed forces to be implemented between 2023 and 2026. This included an increase to 1.5 million personnel, an 11% increase on top of the previously announced expansion to 1.35 million. Shoigu also announced the re-establishment of Moscow and Leningrad military districts, a partial return to the Soviet-era organization of forces in Western Russia. A new army corps is to be established in Karelia near the Finnish border. Shoigu's plan signal that the Russian leadership highly likely assesses that an enhanced conventional military threat will endure for many years beyond the current Ukraine war. However, Russia will highly likely struggle to staff and equip the planned expansion. Moving on to the daily assessment by the Institute for the Study of War. According to the researchers, the defense of Bakhmut is a strategically justified operation despite its high price for Ukraine. While the losses associated with Ukraine's prolonged defense of Bakhmut are significant and likely to affect potential counteroffensive operations elsewhere, Ukraine would be paying a higher price by allowing the Russian occupiers to easily take Bakhmut. Analysts also remind that the capture of Bakhmut by Russia would lead to the occupation of new territories of Ukraine and new atrocities committed by the Russian soldiers. Experts compare the situation in Bakhmut with the defense of Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, where Ukrainian troops caused significant damage and exhausted the Russian forces. The institute noted that Ukrainian forces are effectively holding Russian units, equipment, and a general operations center at Bakhmut, thereby impeding Russia's ability to continue its offensive elsewhere in the theater of war. And to wrap up the intelligence updates, the evening report by the General Staff of Ukraine. The threat of air and missile strikes by the Russian Federation on civilian objects remains high throughout Ukraine. The main efforts of the enemy are concentrated on conducting an offensive in the Bakhmut direction. The enemy conducts unsuccessful offensive actions in the Zaporizhzhia, Avdiivka, and Liman areas. In the direction of Kupiansk, Novopavlivska, and Kherson, the enemy is defending. The enemy continues to suffer losses. For example, trucks and cars with wounded Russian servicemen arrive at the city hospital of Novaya Kharkovka in the Kherson region every day. The number of liquidated occupiers is being specified. And that concludes another one of our news reports. If you're interested in any of the articles I mentioned, you can find the links in the description as usual. Thank you for tuning in and have a great day. You were listening to The Account. Slava Ukraini.